Okay, so here we are back at the garage. Out of the machine shop. So, alright. So I was machining this CV axle. And I parted it and made, drilled it out, made like a little pin that fits into it axially and locates it all together like that. So, what are these grooves on either side of that about? Well, they're from the most common mistake in measuring. So I'm told. Of course, when you're doing finish carpentry or stuff like that, you want to measure from the 1 as opposed to the end of the tape measure. And yeah, then you're supposed to subtract an inch off this side, which I didn't do. So I overshot it by an inch, but that's okay. That's all right. So yeah, when I kind of get this set up for welding, I took the piece that I had sectioned out of there and tried it out on the old welder, and at max welding I didn't even have to preheat it or whatever, but it stuck well. I took a cold chisel and a hammer to it, and I cannot get this little weld blob off of here. And so yeah, for doing measuring and testing, that should do nicely. I'm going to create like a little bit of a gap between these two halves before I stick them together. And also, just to be clear, this is not going to be final welded or anything like that. This is going to be just essentially kind of welded in like probably 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places around this chamfered zone around the center of it. This is so that I can take this and put the ends back on this and set it up in the car and move the wheel through its travel, so that I know that bad things are not going to happen. Essentially, to make it kind of simple for you guys, this is a short side of the Honda Fit, and so this side here is called the tripod, the side that clicks into the transmission in the differential side, and this side over here that goes out to the wheel and gets bolted onto the wheel hub. And then the engine drives the transmission turns and turns the wheel. And so the idea behind these is there's these little bearings, 3 bearings, and these 3 ears in here with kind of deep grooves that kind of go back about 2.5 inches, 2 3/4 inches. And that was the bearing. Yes, I did pick up the bearing off the dirty floor because I'm not using this. This is the economy end that I am not using. So anyway, the design is set up so that the axle can travel in and out of this cup. As the suspension changes, goes up and down, it allows for some deflection inside this cup and sliding in and out. So like if you are steering, if you steer and then you hit a big bump and everything goes up, there is space for this axle to kind of move to the outside of the cup. And so what you do not want to do, because this side has like no play, I mean it shouldn't have any play at all. This one may be a little bit worn, but I'm not going to use it. But yeah, so this side should not have any movement play at all. It should only be able to kind of like articulate, and that's it. This side has all the axial movement going in and out. What you do not want to do is run out of travel, because when that happens, hard things slam up against each other. Like as if you hit like a, you know, if your car understeered in the rain or whatever, and you slid into a concrete curb, and you smash the wheel against the curb, and this pow, drove this into the transmission. Bad things happen. Aluminum breaks, bearings get messed up, you know, shafts can bend. And so I'm trying to mitigate any possibility that I'm going to run out of room. But the problem is, when you shorten an axle like I'm doing, the shorter it is, the more sensitive it is to steering and suspension changes. And so like this is, you know, getting shorter, and so the more the suspension goes up and down or, you know, dynamically moves, it will telescope in and out of that cup to a greater degree. So I need to get really pretty precise with this, and it'll be fun. So yeah, I'm gonna go weld this up now. Yeah, this is a good start. This is going to allow me to dial in stuff. And, you know, and if I made it a little bit long so that if it is too long, if there is, you know, metal interference as I'm, basically I need to go out to the Fiat, take the coilover spring that I built, take the spring, or take the whole coilover apart, take the spring out of the coilover, and kind of bolt everything else back up together, you know, install this and move it through its range of motion on the driver's side. And then this is the passenger side, nice and long, and I need to essentially do the same thing with that. This one I need to take out 2 7/8 inches out of the center of this. This is a nice, you know, this is a hollow tube, so this is going to be, I believe, a lot simpler to weld up. I mean, I almost could actually run this. But ultimately, that's not what I want to do. I would like to have, you know, kind of fresh new axles made. And to that end, I don't, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, is take these Honda axles, because I think they are a little long for what I need, and see if I can get them re-splined on the wheel side so that the wheel side will, you know, allow the Honda axles to go into the Fiat wheel hub. So that's, you know, hopefully the ultimate end of all this stuff. Anyway, time to disassemble this. Okay, so I just pulled the, let's remove the CV wheel spider. I forgot what this thing is called. It's got a specific joint name. Anyway, I took it off the passenger side axle, and yeah, it's kind of shocking. Like right after you after you take this nice heavy weight off of it, this is pretty freaking lightweight. I guess Fiat looked into a lot about oversteer, like power oversteer, and I guess this was one of their solutions is to make this axle with like a tube, a lightweight tube connecting both ends. So yeah, let's take this over to the lathe and get this set up to part. I just loaded up a parting tool. Alright, so that took all of 5 minutes. No, the wall of this stuff is like 1/8-inch wall tubing. It's pretty much what I thought it was going to be like. I wasn't exactly sure how thick it was, but yeah, it's pretty brawny stuff. So let's machine these ends true. About 4 thousandths, 3 or 4 thousandths. I'd say that's probably okay. I don't want to spend all day here. Alright, so we got a nice bevel. I need this for root weld. Just got to do the other side. Alright, so here we got our 2 pipes ready to be welded up. Not quite. Need like a little indexing tube to kind of go in here so these guys mate together axially as precise as possible. And I gotta go hunting around for some 1.5-inch steel tube. I just used a piece of exhaust tubing that I split and just gotta tack it together, and that should be just fine for measuring. Okay, so here we are at the back of the Fiat 128 again, and I got bored. I was working on here and getting ready to drop the gas tank, and the bumper brackets were just kind of annoying me. They were always getting caught on the tarp covering the car and everything like that. And so I thought maybe I should put on the bumper, and that turned into a whole thing because the bumper was like way out here where it mounted, 6 inches further out, and I was like, well, let's collapse the distance between the body of the car and the bumper a little bit, and then that turned into a whole thing of me disassembling the bumper shocks and modifying them so that I could mount the bumper lower also, because the way it was at least like another 1.5 to 2 inches higher, and when you pushed it closer to the car it interfered with the lift gate closing and opening, and now it doesn't. So yeah, and then after I got this far, then the bumper itself was like that big, and you know, I just thought that was too big for a little car like this. So I cut it in half, and I am much happier with this. I think it suits the style of the car better, less weight, and it's still, I mean, it doesn't really provide a whole lot of crash protection anymore. This car is going to be so small that any SUV or anything these days is probably just going to crash right into the hatchback area. But what is nice oftentimes and is kind of overlooked is if you completely remove a bumper from the back of a car, if you need to push the car anywhere for any reason at all, where do you push? And so a bumper can be just a nice place to push against. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to keep it. So, yeah, making good progress on the fuel system. I finished up this fella, the filler neck. That was part of it went to the Honda Fit. Well, two ends of it went to the Honda Fit, and there was like 4 or 5 feet of tubing in between the fill up and where it attaches to the tank, because the fuel tank is way in the center of the car in the Honda Fit, and here it's right back here. So I shortened it up, used a piece of motorcycle exhaust for the bend, and now this looks like some kind of Scottish wind instrument. Anyway, yeah, so this is ready to go in. I'm basically at the point now of, after kind of getting everything plumbed, I need to drop the fuel tank and plate over the old fuel breathers and stuff, and then run the fuel lines. And for that I need the tank to be out of here so I can just kind of thread the new fuel line kind of through the trunk floor. It's complicated. Anyway, but we're moving along, so that's a plus. So, yeah, playing around with bumpers on old cars from the 70s. Yeah, they were oftentimes a bad compromise to get these neat little, you know, import cars federalized. They had to have these crash standards, you know, and they added weight and I guess some complexity. Maybe it was a good thing, I don't know, but yeah, really with just the sheer proliferation of SUVs running around, I don't know if if I ever get hit by somebody in a car, I don't even know if they're going to even get close to that bumper. They just might just shoot right over it into the back hatch. Hopefully that never happens. And what I, you know, was kind of intending to do is to make it look a little bit visually lighter, a little more attractive as far as the body lines of everything. And, you know, I'm doing the same thing on the Lancia too. And so I thought I would give you just like basically an anatomy of this this bumper shock here for all you people with like X19s or Lancia Scorpions or whatever else that you have these and you want to make them shorter. So yeah. It is pretty remarkable that for really as old as these cars, 40, 50 years old, these bumper shocks are typically still in really good shape. Uh, they they are gas charged, holding their charge, and it's kind of, you know, if you look at the construction of it, there's like this little ball bearing at the front where the bumper mounts to, in the very center of this, and that looks to be where they pressurize the gas portion of this shock and just pounded in a hardened ball bearing, very tiny little ball bearing into the orifice to seal it. And yeah, mine were still fully pressurized when I drilled them. And so basically, this small part of the telescoping shock is the sort of the, well, it's kind of everything. This is like a motorcycle fork. There's a little piston in it with a little O-ring, and behind that is, you know, a reservoir of probably nitrogen or something like that. And in front of that, this little telescoping part probably extends to like right about here. And in front of that, there is an oil reservoir inside the tube. And then there's like a thick disc. It's like a washer. It's kind of a domed washer that is just kind of pounded, or the edges are just kind of pounded over to hold this inside the inner tube. And then there's this, which is pretty much empty, but on the inside wall of this, pointing back at the inner tube, is a long, like, metering needle. And it's about, looks like 3 inches long, and it's kind of tapered. And so that needle slides in through this hole right here, and as the inner tube slides, you know, under impact, and this starts, you know, collapsing, this inner tube, it starts traveling further up this tapered needle, and there's less space inside this hole that the needle's in for oil to flow out. So the compression increases, and so it dampens this force trying to jam in here, and then also this gas sort of acts as a spring. So when everything is compressed and, you know, not completely rusted together, locked solid, it will rebound and push this inside tube back out again. And so that, you know, it kind of acts as a gas spring. So yeah, if you do want to shorten these kind of shocks on your Fiat X19 or Lancia Scorpion or Fiat 128, whatever. The gas is in this end, the oil is in this end, and if you still want to retain some of the usability of the shock but just kind of shortening it to a certain degree, you can drill this side of the shock and compress everything, and this very thin, very the oil that comes out of it is not like a thick oil. It's a very watery, I guess, hydraulic oil, but it smells like it's got a ton of solvents in it. And I guess it's doing something. It probably wasn't good for me to breathe, the smell of this stuff, but, well, that's past. So anyway, you can drain out some of that oil, and you could, afterwards, this wall is pretty thick, and you could tap it and put in like a little set screw or something like that, and reseal it back up, and it should stay at whatever kind of length you compress it to be, you know, because it can't like suck back or displace any oil to go backwards. Anyway, I needed to go way beyond that for what I was doing, and I basically compressed this entire length And I was running into the back wall of this, so I chopped this even shorter. So anyway, that's kind of how that works. But if you do want to just completely disassemble it, it's not a big deal to release the gas first. You can do that either by taking a punch and punching this ball bearing in the center here into the chamber, and that'll release it, or you can just drill it. I drilled it with like a 1/8 inch bit, and it wasn't anything explosive. It was just sort of a psss kind of thing. But anyway, just be careful whatever you're doing. One of the items that I did pick up from the pick and pull yard, I don't know if I already went over this, I can't remember. It's been a long time and I've been shooting a lot of footage, so there's probably going to be a lot of footage in this episode. They had a Fiat 500 pop at the pick and pull yard, and because I'm using Fiat 500 brakes essentially now, I wanted to utilize a Fiat 500 master cylinder. And you know, these are attached to a booster that runs off of engine vacuum. But this car, I don't think it needs any brake boosters or anything like that, and so I'm perfectly fine just running this as is in the car. I do need to get a cap for it, and they're wanting a fair amount of money for just a cap, so I'm just taking my time finding one. Anywho, because of this, it's going to kind of simplify the brake system in it, because these Fiat 128s, they had drum brakes in the back, and they were kind of an odd thing where there was like a pressure proportioning valve in it that was attached to the suspension, and if there was a bunch of weight in the back, it would reduce the I guess it would increase the brake pressure, so that because there's a lot of brake pressure, there's a lot more traction in the rear wheels, so you could brake harder or just still brake effectively. And if you had an unloaded vehicle, it would reduce the pressure in the vehicle just by virtue of the height of the suspension, and you wouldn't lock up the rear brakes. I'm switching everything over to disc brakes, and I'm probably going to just put in a little adjustable proportioning valve in the pressure line going to the rear brakes, so that I can just dial that in manually. Anyway, so I pulled out a really long run of extra brake line for the engine or the chassis, and so yeah, that's one thing that's simplified. The other thing that I had to do is, I don't know how well this is going to be seen by the camera. This is like this is the fuel supply line for the Honda Fit, and because the fuel tank for the Honda Fit is essentially directly beneath the driver and passenger front seats, the fuel line for it is quite short, and it was very convoluted. I mean, this had like 8 different bends in it, and I carefully straightened everything out. So yeah, this will not reach the fuel tank on the Fiat 128. So I'm going to have to cut it and splice in more fuel line, which I have from the actual Fiat 128 fuel line. So that's going to be an adventure, and I will share how that goes too. All right. Well, any questions? I know it's been a long time since I've done any videos. life is crazy. Life's got to be crazy for you guys too. I'm trying to, not talk about anything heavy, but yeah, I really hope that we can get ourselves figured out as a country pretty soon. And what's going on right now is not working. But I'm sure most of you know that anyway. You don't need me telling you that. I'm just going to keep plugging away as everybody else is until maybe something more needs to be done. But until then, I am just going to try to be a great guy.